I hope you enjoyed that intro, and of course it's going to be more sniping since this is Splish. Hi, by the way, hope you're fine. And we're going to talk a bit more about Battlebit Remastered, this low poly FPS Battlefield clone, as a lot of people are calling it. And there's a reason for that, of course. That has been doing really, really well. And I am happy for the sake of the developers, of course, since there are only 3 guys that has been working with this game, if I've understood it right from the beginning. And that's quite an amazing achievement, just that, to get this game going, and in the condition that it was also, you might say, released early on when it comes to play tests, and then getting into the early access and everything, and here we are. Well, the first 2 weeks, and you might have heard this already, they have sold over 1.8 million units. Again, in just 2 weeks. That's good numbers, really good numbers, which means around $27 million in their pockets. That is pretty astonishing in many ways, especially also considering that they haven't really been doing any marketing at all, at least not much, not like a big market budget you might find or see when it comes to AAA games, of course. So the game has had a really successful launch, and the player count is rising still. I think it's plus 70k players, something like that, might be even more right now, which of course, like other games or developers, would be quite proud to have as well. And here we are with these 3 guys that have just achieved that. So the question is also, what's going to happen from here? I read early on that the developers have said that it doesn't really matter how the game is doing, it will stay. We will continue to have it up there, meaning the servers and everything, and people will be able to play. That sounds really like a good kind of saying and statement early on to say, because we do know that a lot of games nowadays has come out but not been doing well, and then they get like an early kind of sunset and you never see them again. I don't think that's going to be the case with this game. It has done so much right from the start, you might say. And when I'm saying that, I'm referring to the fact that I played the playtests and the game was doing really well already back then. And I'm talking about performance foremost. It doesn't mean that a game has to be ready. It wasn't, but it was doing well. And you kind of understand and feel that, okay, so they got this one, and it's going to perform well even when it gets out there, like in early access and so forth, meaning released and all the good stuff. And that has not been the case with a lot of other games, but a simple thing like getting the connection right and the servers, that in itself is very strong, a strong incentive to actually play a game. And I think that's where we are right now. We've seen way too many like bigger titles come out and not really, they haven't been doing well for many reasons. It's designing choices as well in the game, and we're getting to that as well, since Battlefield has been changed in their concept quite some, especially the last few years, and a lot of people don't like that, myself included. That's why it's also very fresh to get into a game, even though it's an indie game and low poly FPS game that has taken the part of like team play seriously when it comes to having classes and making them important in the game. Even though I can see that now the devs needs to look into the classes as well and try to equalize a bit, because there are a few classes that are a bit more like stronger, you might say, than others. And of course we also could talk about weapon balances. There's a lot of meta weapons in the game as I see it, also due to the fast TTK. So there's definitely things to work on in this game, and I hope that the developers continue to do that. One thing that I hope they really consider and are a bit careful about is like the new maps that they will launch later on here, because I do think now, after spending time, that there are a few maps that aren't that amazing or great, especially with certain game modes. One example is, of course, what happens sometimes in the city maps, or some city maps, that becomes a bit like cluttered. It's almost a bit over ambitious with a lot of buildings and so forth, that kind of prevents people to take the initiative to play the objective or move on to the next one. That also has to do in combination with the fast TTK. You get a bit worried, oh, I'm gonna get shot easily, and of course that's the case, and you could argue there and say that they should definitely make the TTK a bit higher, which I do think could be a good thing, just a notch. On the other hand, you could also think about starting to look into damage drops in some of the guns, like the MP7, the Vector, like SMGs are really doing well from a distance, which maybe shouldn't be the case. That's just an example. That's one way of balancing weapons in the game without really nerfing them to death. That can become quite a crucial thing and can break it. I would also like to see some double XP now and then, maybe over a weekend. I don't know. Other games are doing that on a regular basis, just to accelerate the ranking up a bit For me now playing as a sniper, it took some time to get the attachments needed to at least get less hit markers due to the armor also in the game that I've already talked about. I don't think it should be in the game to start with. So with that said, getting, for example, the Ranger barrel, I think it's called, took some time. And therefore, if you get like double XP, you might be able to get your favorite gun a bit faster. With that said, thank you for watching. Again, this is a fun game, a fun experience, and I guess many of you that are watching the video are playing the game yourself. So put your thoughts in the comments. It's always nice to read, and I always take time to answer comments as well, so we can have a discussion there. Again, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon again later.
I need the medic.
On Saturday night. On Saturday.